Is Patrick Mahomes still the NFL MVP? We're going to talk about that and more on a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Let's roll, baby.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Got a lot to talk about on today's show. Is Patrick Mahomes still the MVP? Who were the true Super Bowl contenders in the NFL, and what are the best games of Week 6? Before we get into all of it, do want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and it is presented by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. That's all lowercase. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. And make sure that you go check out your favorite team's crossover Thursday episode. Get some behind enemy lines information, some great conversation. With that being said, though, thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. NFL content all year round, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On NFL podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Rowland, local expert, Locked On Titans, here with Alex Clancy, local expert, Locked On Cardinals. We're here every single Thursday with you guys. And as we always do, Alex, we are going to start with this Thursday night football game. And I got to tell you, a lot of weeks, we get good games. This one does not look, on paper at least, like it's going to be a very entertaining game, because we have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Denver Broncos. Now, as a lot of people may know, my everydayers of the Locked On NFL show will know, but if you don't, Denver Broncos fans maybe aren't too happy with me and Alex. We had some off-season conversations about Sean Payton, his viability, how likely it would that he would be a success. And as my guy over at Locked On Broncos, Cody Roark, put out to the masses, we weren't big believers in Sean Payton and this Broncos team. And you know what, Alex? Turns out that might be something that we were right about, because the Broncos are 1-4. Their one win was a late comeback against the Chicago Bears, who were also 1-4. So the Broncos don't look to be a very good team. Right now, they're 10.5-point underdogs to Kansas City. Alex, one quick question before we talk about what really matters here. Would you take the Denver Broncos minus 10.5 in this game on FanDuel?
No. This is the worst. So one of my favorite quotes that I've used over the history of my life and sports radio life starting in 2012 was the beautiful Owen Wilson quote from Armageddon. So, scariest environment imaginable. That's all you had to say. It's the scariest environment imaginable. After being told by scientists everything they're going to experience on that asteroid. This is the scariest environment imaginable for the Denver Broncos playing the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday night after losing to the Jets the way they did, after being in a complete embarrassment through a month of the NFL season. Sure, give them 2 weeks. Hell, give them 3. With a new offense, a new coach, Jerry Jeudy's hurt. They're trading players. Bradley Chubb's not there anymore. Javonte Williams is hurt, coming off injury. Everything. Give them 3 weeks. There's no excuse anymore. This team is bad. Russell Wilson doesn't even seem to be the biggest problem. Russell Wilson's played pretty well the last couple of weeks. This Kansas City Chiefs defense, this Kansas City Chiefs offense, devoid of a wide receiver 2, let alone a wide receiver 1, is going to embarrass the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Broncos.
They wish they were the Denver Nuggets. That's a winning team.
I mean, they need a little nickel in their life for sure. Little Jokic in their life. But
can Jokic play on the Broncos defense maybe and help them out?
They need him to play the entire offensive line. He's not really that much of a bruiser, though.
He does love horses and the Broncos. I mean, okay, we're off the rails now. I would love
to stage for Locked On NBA once with you and me.
Right,
because it was both of our first loves, and basketball was both of our first loves. It's going to be tough. Now, having said that, it's Russell Wilson. He's done it before. Sean Payton's done it before. They've surprised people before. The problem is this defense for the Broncos isn't good, and it's surprising that it isn't good. And they've already traded Randy Gregory, and who knows if they're going to do a complete tear down, trade Patrick Surtain, it could be complete Armageddon once again in Denver with this roster. So long story, very long-winded. No, they will not win.
No.
Thursday.
Yeah,
No, they will not
I would be
win.
scared of that 10.5 as well. But we talk about the Broncos defense, and what I really want to say is that this defense allows Patrick Mahomes to have another, he's the MVP night. Prime time, Thursday night football. So I just want to go over some of the MVP odds right now on FanDuel. Pat Mahomes is still the favorite, plus 350. Tua right behind him, plus 500. Hurts, plus 600. Brock Purdy, your favorite guy, plus 650. And then Josh Allen, plus 700. CMC is the first non-quarterback at plus 2,000. Defensive player, plus 15,000 with TJ Watt and Micah Parsons. Alex, right now, if you had to, I know it's early, but would you say Mahomes is still the MVP right now? And out of all those names and those odds, would you bet on Pat Mahomes if you had to place a wager?
I mean, these are the best odds you're going to get from him all year, it seems. Traditionally, over the last couple of years, it's always been somebody else that's skyrocketed out of the gates. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, plus 200, Patrick Mahomes, plus 600, plus 500, always third, fourth, and fifth. There hasn't been a quarterback that's really taken the reins. And I'll apologize about Brock Purdy. What he's done is exactly what any competent, good quarterback in his position would do. He doesn't have to do everything.
Sure.
If Patrick Mahomes was in this offense, he wouldn't have the gaudy numbers like he does in Kansas City. It's not constructed that way. If they go 15-2, Brock Purdy's winning the MVP. That's something that really
Any
needs
chance CMC does, though?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Brock Purdy threw 3 touchdown passes last week. Okay. Christian McCaffrey scored 1. It was kind of in the game when the game was kind of out of reach already. Brock Purdy has been perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been pretty perfect.
I
think I'm sorry. I had to get one in. I think for me, I would ride with Tua at this point. I think what we've seen is real. I think their offense is going to put up a bunch of numbers. They lost to Buffalo and it was ugly. But if the Dolphins have a good stretch at the end of the season, like they play the Titans late in the year, they could put up 500 passing yards in that game. So if Tua has a really good finish to the year with the offensive numbers that they're going to put up, I think there's a good chance he could win the MVP. But I think right now, Patrick Mahomes is still the MVP. In a classic Alex Clancy line, he is until he isn't. So I think Patrick Mahomes is still the MVP, and he's going to look like it on Thursday night.
Yeah, and there's one outside name, and there's the fun because you're right. He is. Now, there's one name, and I've had a pretty good track record of just throwing things at things. Okay. There's one name that if this team makes the playoffs, would be in contention for this. Okay? They have an outside chance because their defense isn't very good, but what he's done through the first few weeks is played excellently. He hasn't thrown a lot of touchdown passes, but he's played very well, and it's Matthew Stafford. If they win 9 games this year or 10 games and they make the playoffs, he's going to be a name that's floated around. It's not going to be 15-2. It's not going to be 14-3.
Right.
He's having the rumblings that nobody's paying attention to now with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell and Tyler Higbee and Kyron Williams. Even though the offensive line isn't great, they've now built this small offensive juggernaut in LA. And if he stays healthy and he throws for 4,500 yards and 35 plus touchdowns or whatever, he could definitely be in contention at the end. But yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes until it's not. And Tua, he's played one tough opponent this year, and he's not played very well in Buffalo. Yep. So that's what I take it as, and not necessarily what he does when they're running willy-nilly against everybody else.
Yeah, that's fair to say. But we'll probably talk about Tua and the Dolphins, some of these other teams a little bit more when we talk about which teams so far this year are true Super Bowl contenders. Before we get into that, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Look, guys, Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. I'll just break it down how easy it is. You go on Prize Picks. They have projections for every player. For example, Pat Mahomes, 2 passing touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 50 receiving yards. Isaiah Pacheco, 60 rushing yards. Russell Wilson, 1 interception. All you do is you look at the projection and you say whether that player is going to have more or less than what Prize Picks says. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 25 times your money this football season. You can make an entry and submit it in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, and you don't got to play against pros and bots and sharks. It's just you against the Prize Picks projections. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. It's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, football fans, let's continue a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. We talk about Pat Mahomes and how he's still the MVP of the NFL as we stand here. It'll probably solidify that on Thursday night against the Broncos. But now we want to talk about some teams through the first 5 weeks of the year that look like true Super Bowl contenders. Which teams are the actual teams that can win the Super Bowl this year? We're going to get into the best games of week 6 at the end of the show as well. But first, we will talk about these true Super Bowl contenders. Before we do, thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Remember to get subscribed, stay subscribed for daily NFL content all year round, always for free. Alex, we will start in the AFC. In the AFC looking, you got the Miami Dolphins at the top of the AFC East. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers tied with the Ravens, but ahead of the Ravens because of the divisional win. At the top of the AFC North, Jacksonville Jaguars and Indianapolis Colts tied at the top for the AFC South. The Chiefs, the Chargers are 2-2, so they're trying to turn things around. Out of all of the teams in the AFC, how many Super Bowl contenders are there, and who are they?
3. I mean, you got to put the Dolphins out there because their offense, the Bills,
Right.
and the Chiefs. Like,
Right.
maybe 4. Like, out of the AFC North, I'd still take the Bengals. Like, I don't think, I just don't. We would have known if this offense in Baltimore would work. Like, the Baltimore's defense has been carrying them. They've given up 75 points in 4 weeks. Like, that's excellent defense. If you keep a team under 20 points in this day and age's NFL, you're winning. Mm-hmm. Odell Beckham Jr. is a non-factor. Rashad Bateman's a non-factor. Zay Flowers, like, they're getting him involved, but they really don't know how to use him yet. They're using him in all of the ways. The running game with J.K. Dobbins out, like, they don't have – it's the same Ravens over and over and over again. It's, can Lamar stay healthy? Can he put together, like, 35 combined touchdowns? And can their defense hold? Like, that's really what it is. I'd still – what we saw, even though it was against Arizona's secondary, which was not good, Joe Burrow looked like Joe Burrow last week. Immediately. He looked like Joe Burrow. And even without T. Higgins, that offense is still to be feared. Like, I would fear – the Bengals offense at full strength versus the Dolphins offense at full strength. I would still fear the Bengals offense at full strength because Joe Burrow is a better quarterback. Jamar Chase is the best receiver. Tyreek Hill, maybe that's not true. I mean, Tyreek Hill is shown. Right. We'll take, in a vacuum, I would take the skill position players of the Bengals over I would Miami.
Yeah.
I just would, because if they're not throwing the ball deep or they're not getting space as wide as the Grand Canyon in the middle of the field for these guys to run, it's not going to work. So I would say maybe 4 with Cincinnati. I would take Cincinnati out of any over the AFC North.
I am looking at this. I am going to say teams that I could realistically see winning the Super Bowl. I'm going to go with 5.
Okay.
I think there are 5. I think the Dolphins and the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I also think you put the Jacksonville Jaguars in there, and I'm with you. The Cincinnati Bengals are still in there. If the Bengals get it right, they're still going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. But for me, it's Jacksonville. And Jacksonville didn't look good early on. And they're a young team that might have been smelling themselves a little bit too much from all the all-season love. But I still think that Jacksonville's offense can get it done. And I think their defense, especially there against Buffalo, I think their defense showed something that they can improve. With Josh Allen and Travon Walker on the edges, if they can get that pass rush going, I think that there's a chance that Jacksonville could make a special run still. I think they have the talent to do it. They haven't played great early in the year, but I think they'll improve. I think Jacksonville could take a little bit of a leap. So I'll go with a couple of extra, but I think if we had to pare it down, I think Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills is probably the clear top 3 right now.
Yeah, we still don't know who Trevor Lawrence is.
Yeah.
He makes some throws where it's like,
I think I do, though. I think I do. And I get what you're saying, and what you're saying is not wrong. But I just feel confident in Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a good player. I think he's good enough.
He's taken way too many sacks. Like there's a lot of time where he's not getting enough time, which is, it's no quarterback's fault really. But, if it'll gel, it gels. This is his first time with Calvin Ridley. It takes a while with the wide receiver 1. If they can unlock that, it unlocks everything else. Like, I get it. I don't know. I don't trust that they're going to win every week that they go out. And Super Bowl contenders, you think that they're going to win every time they go out. And I just don't see that with Jacksonville yet.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's something where I think it'll happen as the season goes. But moving over to the NFC, I think this is pretty simple. You got the Eagles and the Cowboys in the NFC. Detroit is leading the NFC North. Tampa Bay, surprising 3-1, leading the NFC South. San Francisco, of course, the juggernaut at 5-0. We know San Francisco and Philly are considered Super Bowl contenders. My question is for you, 3 teams, Dallas, Detroit, Tampa Bay. Do you feel that any of them are true Super Bowl contenders and could be in the Super Bowl this year?
Detroit. They've shown it. Like, it's like, I was like, Detroit needs to do it like before. I still picked Minnesota to win that division before the season started. Yeah, I kind of went 180 because I said that Detroit would win this division in 2023. I said it 2 years ago. Like, this is the time when Jared Goff will get it. They'll get some good draft picks. But they've shown it. They've got composure. They've got the talent in the right spots. I thought they were going to miss DJ Chark. Even though DJ Chark wasn't a huge impact maker last year, he's a deep threat. They don't miss him. The defense is improving. Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute machine. If they can unlock Jahmyr Gibbs towards the second half of this season to complement David Montgomery in the Jamal Williams role that he's obviously playing now, Jared Goff can do it. Jared Goff is not Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff has won a lot of big games under bright lights. Yeah. So I think, especially with those 3, listen, I love Baker. I think he's always gotten after his couple years where he was talking too big, little too Johnny Manzielish for everybody's liking in Cleveland. He's really humbled himself. He's a good leader. There's a lot of quarterback play in this league devoid of real leadership. And he's always been a good leader when he's played, even in LA. Even in Carolina for a short stint there, like maybe he's found a home in Tampa Bay. Maybe it's exactly what they need. I just don't think that he's good enough as a quarterback. And the defense isn't as stout as it was 2 years ago with Tom Brady there for them to get to the precipice of a Super Bowl. But I think Detroit definitely has the makings of it, which is great.
Yeah, I think Detroit's offensive line and their defensive line is what really allows them to be in that conversation. Mm-hmm. I really just want to ask you this before we move forward. I think when we talked about this or just passed by it, it was San Francisco, Philly, and Dallas. Are you not including Dallas in that conversation anymore? They are not a Super Bowl contender to you?
Close.
Yeah, they're on the borderline. I just don't trust them to make big plays.
Losing to Arizona was inexcusable. And that's not like me knocking the team that I covered, that I do the podcast for. It's not. Super Bowl contending teams do not lose to teams like that. They don't lose in the way that they lost. They don't lose to teams, regardless if it's on the road or at home. I said this about the Arizona Cardinals when they were 10-1 or something in 2021. They went to Detroit and lost in the early time window. It's like, you don't lose those games if you're a serious football team. You don't. Yep. And we marked for so long about Tom Brady, where all he did was just win, and everybody just expected it just normal to go win football games. Aaron Rodgers is the same way until the playoffs, but good teams don't lose those games. And Dallas has lost 2 games in inexcusable fashion. So I would remove them at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, with that being said, we are going to move forward. Like you said, sorry, I'm so excited, Alex. You know how I get the best games of the week. We're going to dive into that in just a moment. Before we do, though,
this episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected, and that's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Do not get caught unprepared. Remember the Jace case. 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so you don't have to just hope you have medication during an emergency. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Tyler, it's time. I'm Alex Clancy, as you're muted. You're Tyler Rowland at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. For all your Titans information, go to Tyler. For all your Cardinals information, go to me. We make up Locked On NFL Thursday. This is our 3rd season doing this. It's flown by. I just hit my 6-year anniversary on this place. You just hit your 5th year, right?
Yep.
Not what, 2 weeks ago or something?
Well, I'm starting my 5th season, so technically it's 4 years.
4 years, yeah, right. This is my 7th season, sixth year, 7th season. Just wild. So lucky to be a part of this organization. And we are so lucky to get to talk our favorite segment of the week every week, favorite games of the week going into the week. Can I say week one more time in one sentence? Week 6, appreciate the NFL now.
Yes.
We're already through 5 weeks. I'm going to hit this every week. Appreciate it. 5 weeks are already gone. Okay? Anyways, best games. You went last week. First, I've got a couple this week. I'm going to let you take yours. Okay. There are a couple bottom feeder ones that I'm really, really interested about. Okay. I'm going to take mine first. The one I'm most excited about is Cowboys Chargers Monday night. I think that's obvious. That's the popcorn film one. Cowboys coming or Chargers coming off a bye with Austin Eckler coming back, Mike Williams out for the year, Keenan Allen. See if we see Quentin Johnson play. See if Joshua Palmer is going to take that spot. And see if Dallas can avoid going 0-3 in their last 3 weeks. Justin Herbert coming off fresh. That's one for me. The unfair one for me, purely in a vacuum from a how many points can they score lens, is Carolina and Miami.
Yeah.
It's in Miami. Carolina's defense led by Brian Burns and Jeremy Chin. Like, they've got pieces there in Carolina, okay? But I want to see in South Beach if another 70 burger can happen. Like, this game could get out of hand very quickly. This game is going to be a fantasy football darling for one side of the ball, and maybe Adam Thielen. If you don't have Adam Thielen on your roster, what are you doing? That was my first waiver pickup before week 1. Adam Thielen. He's been a PPR sweetheart this year.
Yeah.
But that's the other one for me as I just look off the top here. Just go to the one that I know you're going to say, and let's go to something else.
Well, I just want to say this. I loved your Cowboys-Chargers pick. I think the Chargers are a team that the way we feel about them at the end of the season may be a lot different than the beginning of the season. Like, the beginning of the season, it was like, are the Chargers going to drop to 0-3? Like, blah, 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 this team's bad. Vikings, Chargers, loser goes home. I think we'll look up in December, and it'll be like, oh, this Chargers team is good. Okay, and it'll kind of flip of what the narrative was. I think the obvious game is Detroit-Tampa Bay.
Oh.
Yeah, Detroit 4-1, Tampa Bay 3-1. I want to see how real these teams are. I think this is going to be a physical matchup. I think Detroit wins the game, but Tampa Bay 3-1. How real are you? Are you going to drop to 3-2, look pedestrian, kind of ruin any confidence that people have in you? Or are you going to step up, beat the Lions, who everybody loves, and prove, hey, Tampa Bay's legit at 4-1. I think that'll be an interesting one. San Francisco at Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland may not have Deshaun Watson in this one, and I don't think there's a real chance that the Browns are going to win. But the Browns by far have the best defense in the NFL. Their defense is awesome. And I want to see them against Brock Purdy in San Francisco, who have the best collection of talent on offense in the NFL, or like from top to bottom, not just skill position, like with the O-line and everything. I guess you could say that's Philly, but San Francisco's right there, of course. So I want to see how Brock Purdy does against this Cleveland Browns defense, which I've seen firsthand from covering one of their games, is absolutely as legit as it comes. So I want to see what Brock Purdy does against Cleveland.
Yeah. And then my third, this is one I thought you were going to say, is Seattle going to Cincinnati. And this is more about Seattle than Cincinnati. You'd expect Cincinnati to win a game like this early morning. Cincinnati traveling or Seattle traveling cross country. Joe Burrow's healthy again. You know, we don't really know. I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know about both these teams right now. Seattle was
I don't know. And speaking of, I don't know that this game is more about Seattle than the Bengals. I think this game is all about the Bengals. I think that the Bengals got shellacked by the Titans 27-3 and then went out and beat an Arizona team that they should have beat down by 1,000,000. Nobody would have been surprised about that outcome if you said it before Joe Burrow's injury. So to me, this is all about Cincinnati. Now you're at home against a Seattle team that's probably better than the Titans and the Cardinals. And let's see how healthy Joe Burrow really is. If the Bengals go out and lose this game and drop to 2-4, I think that it's a serious like, oh crap, this team just isn't as good all of a sudden. But if the Bengals come out and they win the way they're supposed to in that game, I think that our conversation next week will be, oh, the Bengals are back. You know what I mean? A big win in the desert against the Cardinals doesn't prove any of that to me. Doing that against Seattle, though, where you're supposed to take care of business at home, that would mean something to me. So I think it's all about the Bengals, you know?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, even if the Bengals drop to 2-4, well, they're still a wild card team. Like, they're given this inherent just because they've been good, you know? And with Seattle, if Cincinnati wins 27-10 or 27-13, it's like, well, Seattle legit. Like, that's kind of more for me. Like, Cincinnati's got the out because they have Joe Burrow. They've got the out because they have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins will probably be back in the next week or two. Like, they've got Joe Mixon. They've got an offense. You know, they've got proof of concept has been there. We know that Seattle made the playoffs last year. Okay, Geno Smith has been fine, but we know that Geno Smith was a backup for the first 12 years of his career.
He does not have as much confidence. Yes.
Okay, so that is a turning into the proverbial pumpkin situation in Seattle where they're just on a meteoric rise in Cincinnati. So I think you have the built-in excuse like, oh, it's fine, 2-4. The division's up for grabs still. We don't know about Cleveland. We don't know about Pittsburgh. We don't know about the Ravens.
No one's going to run away with it.
Division to win. Like, there's no room for error with Seattle. Like, if they want to win the division, they've got to win 13
Well, they're not
games
doing that. So they can just focus on beating out the Rams for the wild card. But,
is there any other? I mean, like the only other one, especially for the Tankathonians, if you want to call them that, is Minnesota and Chicago. If Minnesota loses this game, Kevin O'Connell should be fired. Like, I don't know why.
We knew they were going to regress from 13-3, but not this much. I mean,
this is the Cliff Kingsbury situation.
Yeah.
This is the 11-6. Okay. Yeah. This is the offense of the Minnesota Vikings behind zero offensive line. Imagine Kirk Cousins behind an offensive line during any part of his career. Kirk Cousins would have won at least one MVP, it seems like. If he had all he says is, I got hit a lot. I get hit a lot. He is on the ground more than any offensive lineman. Like, I don't think Minnesota is taking their head coach like that as seriously as they need to, because Justin Jefferson could well say, see ya. And I said, I said this offseason too. Like, Justin Jefferson will want out if they don't win this year. It's just what happens now.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the last guy who really did something like that, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, it's working out pretty well for them. So hard to say that method doesn't work. But with that being said, that is going to do it for a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Make sure you guys are back for Friday's show with your boy Q, big time your boy Q, and Chris Carter, of course, breaking down the rest of the NFL slate. That's going to do it for us, though. And as I say every weekend, stay safe out there and start your weekend early.